people know that they do not live in a democracy. They want them to know. They do this stuff on purpose. Hours after CIA Director John Brennan took the oath. Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news report today. It's Tuesday, March 12th, 2013, and I'm Darko. This first article I have for you is Brennan takes oath on draft constitution without Bill of Rights. So this is not very surprising in this day and age. So it says here that this is not the symbolism that the White House wanted. No, they do. They want to let the American people know that they do not live in a democracy. They want them to know. They do this stuff on purpose. Hours after CIA Director John Brennan took the oath of office behind closed doors, far away from the press, perhaps befitting his status as American top spy, the White House took pains to emphasize the symbolism of the ceremony. It says Brennan swore in with his hand on an original draft of the Constitution that George Washington's personal handwriting and annotations on it dating from 1787. Director Brennan told the president that he made the request to the archives because he wanted to reaffirm his commitment to the rule of law as he took the oath of office as director of CIA. The Constitution itself went into effect in 1789, but as a blogger points out, what was missing from the Constitution in 1787 is also quite symbolic, the Bill of Rights, which did not officially go into effect until December 1791 after ratification by states. It means no freedom of speech and of the press, no right to bear arms, no Fourth Amendment, ban on unreasonable searches and seizures, and no right to a jury trial. That is not a surprise because Obama swore in to his second term at a private ceremony. This is from January 20th, 2013. Obama swore in on Sunday to a second term during a subdued and private White House ceremony that precedes the pomp of Monday's public inauguration. So we have a poll that shows Obama tumbling in voters' eyes. It says here that his approval rating has dropped to the lowest level in more than a year, with more voters now turning a thumbs down on his performance than thumbs up. Share of homes with guns shows a 4-decade decline. So I don't know. This is kind of some weird propaganda they've been putting out lately. Like this right here, a poll. Americans want background checks for guns and ban on assault weapons. This is completely engineered consent. This is what it's all about. The share of American households with guns has declined over the past 4 decades. A nation's survey shows with some of the most surprising drops in the South and Western mountain states where guns are deeply embedded in the culture. So gun ownership rate has fallen across the board since the 1970s. It could be that they're just not reporting it. But for whatever it's worth, UN gun sales hit a record high since Obama's re-election. This is from January 2013. So, so I mean, it just doesn't make sense, right? How could there be record gun sales if there's not that many guns in the house, record low guns in people's hands? That doesn't make any sense. So, fewer Americans than ever trust the U.S. government. In other news, 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition for Homeland Security. So, it says here, the Denver Post ran on February 15th, an AP article that Homeland Security plans to buy 1.6 billion rounds of ammo. So far, there's little to notice. So it has been confirmed by DHS. It's issued an open purchase for the 1.6 billion rounds of ammunition. So, adding to this, DHS is now showing off its acquisition of heavily armored personnel carriers, i.e. tanks, repatriated from the Iraqi and Afghani theaters of operation. So Cryptogun goes on and says you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. Pew Research Center in Washington has found that fewer Americans than ever trust the decisions made by the government. So it indicates that all demographics and groups experience an increasing lack of faith in the government leadership, according to the Pew poll. Says more than twice as many Hispanics as whites, 44% versus 20%, trust the federal government. More blacks, 38% than whites, trust the government. This is not surprising. This is why they want to lower the voting age to why they did to 18. That researchers additionally observe that younger Americans trust the government more than their older counterparts, and that more liberals believe in the administration of Obama than either independents or Republicans. So, talking about being naive. So I'm back here, guys. My computer the Windows just crashed again. So the audio is really, really bad, and the only way to do that is to literally put the microphone against the speakers. And I'm sorry for the crappy quality. But today is just a day from hell, and I wasn't even going to make these videos today because I knew what I was facing. So here we go. California seizes guns as owners lose rights to keep arms. So scrolling down here, it says wearing bulletproof vests and carrying a .40 caliber Glock pistol, 9 California Justice Department agents assembled outside a ranch-style house in a suburban east of Los Angeles. They were looking for a gun owner who had recently spent 2 days in a mental hospital. Knocked on his door, asked him to come in. About 45 minutes later, they came away peacefully with 3 firearms. So California is the only state that tracks and disarms people with legally registered guns who have lost the right to own them. It says almost 20,000 gun owners in the state are prohibited from possessing firearms, including convicted felons and those under a domestic violence restraining order or deemed mentally unstable. So, yeah, we already covered this. Americans want background checks for guns and ban on assault weapons. Americans overwhelmingly support tougher background checks for prospective gun owners, and a majority support bans on assault weapons and big ammunition clips. Next, on February 22nd, Right Views reported that a growing number of firearm companies have suspended the sale of guns to states, counties, cities, and municipalities that restrict their citizens' rights to own them. In just 2 weeks, the number of companies participating in what has been called the firearms equality movement has more than tripled, from 34 companies to 118. In a radio interview, Sheriff Terry Maketa alleges Senate Democrats playing politics with their pay raises. So it says here, they allege the Senate Democratic leadership is arguing to withhold a bill on pay increases for county sheriffs because of their opposition to gun control measures. Malden High School gun scare caused by water pistols. You can't take any of this stuff lightly today, says superintendent. The student will face internal disciplinary action. So, a teacher's report of a gun sighting on the high school campus prompted a quick police response Monday afternoon, though officers ultimately recovered a neon-colored water gun at the scene. While just a toy, fake guns are prohibited on campus and can prompt a serious police response. So, it's kind of like the Pop-Tart gun, right? The kid was making click-click noises, so, that prompted a suspension, just like the student that wrestled away a gun from a possible prospective shooter, and he got suspended for that. Gabby Giffords' husband buys an AR-15. So gun control proponent and husband to former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords recently purchased an AR-15, an assault weapon, he called it, which he now says he intended as an illustration of a need for more stringent gun laws. Kind of like the Bloomberg-backed anti-gun lobbyists enjoying assault weapons at a watermelon shooting contest. Police chief's polygraph targets racist applicants. A police chief hired to rebuild a tiny Tennessee department dismantled by scandal is using a lie detector test to keep racists off his force. Cooperstown Police Chief Shane Sullivan took over his department in November, becoming the 11th chief in many years. He was hired on the heels of a series of police scandals that for a few months left the town with no police at all. No political revenue collectors. Years before that, a mayor was voted out of office after the local prosecutor accused him of racism and running a notorious speed trap. One polygraph expert warned that lie detectors can't accurately predict racism for reasons that include people's inability to recognize their own racism. Says he doubts racists will even apply for the force if they knew about the test. The city billboard urges Hispanics to revolt. Imagine if cities put up billboards calling for Anglos to rise up. So it goes on here, says it's considered billboard art, but it comes off more as a revolutionary slogan. So Arriba Mi Gente by Nancy Guerra depicts a horde of people with clenched fists and flags raised over an image of the U.S.-Mexico border and a heart emblazoned with the Mexican flag logo. The slogan in Spanish, plastered prominently over the network, translates, "Rise up, my people," with the idea of uprising clearly suggested. And just a little side note, you have what? Outrage is U.S. government funding La Raza with your tax dollars. The U.S. government is funding the National Council of La Raza with our tax dollars. La Raza literally means in Spanish the race, is a radical organization that advocates open borders and amnesty for illegal aliens. Backlash grows over release of detained immigrants. The GOP wants to know who gave the final approval. So the Obama regime's decision to release some immigrants awaiting deportation back into the community had spawned a furious backlash from Congress, where stunned lawmakers had besieged the Homeland Security Department with questions. ACLU launches nationwide investigation into police use of military technology and tactics. Militarization of local law enforcement erodes civil liberties, encourages overly aggressive policing. So affiliates in 23 states filed more than 255 public records requests to determine the extent to which local police departments are using federally subsidized military technology and tactics that are traditionally used overseas. They're equipping state and local law enforcement with military weapons vehicles and military tactical training and actual military assistance to conduct traditional law enforcement, erodes civil liberties. So And it says here increases aggressive policing, or encourages it, particularly in poor neighborhoods and communities of color. Special weapons and tactics teams include number and purpose of deployments, types of weapons. So go in there and check it out. Links won't be posted today. I'm going to do links tomorrow. So there won't be videos tomorrow, but I'll put the links up tomorrow. I'm just having, like I said, a bunch of problems. My mouse is even broke, so just look for them tomorrow. U.S. citing security to censor more public records. It says here that analysis shows the government censored in the name of national security files requested last year by the public under the FOIA more often than any time since President Obama took office. It was the highest number of requests so far for copies of government documents. Next up, NYPD program patrols inside private buildings. We've heard about this before. Residents say they're unfairly stopped. So officers at the NYPD are patrolling inside private buildings in a program known as Operation Clean Halls. It's been lauded by some residents who say they feel safer, but vilified by others who say they are being harassed at home. Many complain they're illegally stopped and arrested. That's what policing is. More than 24 people who say they were wrongly stopped had filed a federal lawsuit. It started in the 90s when crime was at an all-time high. It says now that more than 3,000 buildings around the city enrolled, mostly in higher crime areas. Then we have DoD plans to preemptive deadly force on hackers and cyber threats. They're going to use preemptive deadly force. A new report from the Department of Defense outlines military's capability to deter cyber threats with some pretty heavy firepower, including nuclear weapons. It was written by Defense Science Board, describes the best types of bombs to use on hackers to be global selective strike systems. So go in there and check it out. It says the U.S. may have to rely on nuclear weapons to retaliate after a large-scale cyber attack. Cops are patrolling Facebook for predictive policing. So it says programs like ShotSpotter system were already in place in 44 cities by 2009. So it says here just seconds after the trigger of a gun is squeezed, police officers in cities and towns in America are alerted thanks to the latest and greatest state of art of technology. Up to the moment, accuracy isn't always enough. So the gunfire alert and analysis solution that uses specialized sensors and software to triangulate and pinpoint the precise location of each spent round within seconds, and dozens of law enforcement agencies across the U.S. have signed on. Facebook reveals secrets you haven't shared. The increasing amount of personal information that can be gleaned by computer programs that tracks how people use Facebook has been revealed by an extensive academic study. So discern undisclosed private information such as Facebook users' sexuality, drug use habits, and even whether their parents separated when they were young, according to a study by Cambridge. They analyzed data from 58,000 Facebook users to predict traits and other information that were not provided in their profiles. The algorithms were 88% accurate in predicting male sexual orientation, 95% for race, 80% for religion and political leanings. Personality types and emotional stability were also predicted with accuracy between 62 and 75, and Facebook declined to comment. So someone is watching you pick your nose via a webcam and sharing photos with fellow creepers. So it goes on here, it says the remote administration tool is used, some hackers are using that to spy on strangers. Poor people think they are alone in their private homes but have no idea they are the laughing stock on one of the forums. It would be funny if one of these slaves venture into learning how to hack and come across this thread. Then you have an artist recreate strangers' faces from discarded DNA on the streets. So she goes on here and it says that she creates portrait sculptures from analysis of genetic material collected on public places. It says traces of strangers unwittingly leave behind. So the individual says it calls attention towards the potential for a culture of genetic surveillance, like they pull your DNA from your infants. Microsoft phone application collects audio from bars and restaurants to deduce the current atmosphere. An app called Bing Now says here it could give web searchers a way to gauge the current vibe of a bar or restaurant before they book a table. Seattle Dive Bar becomes first to ban Google Glass. The owner says it's because it's a kind of private place that people go. So they're asking if other businesses will follow. So the $1,500 spectacles will not be welcome. Netflix introduces monthly report comparing broadband speeds. Of course, the ISPs who scam their customers aren't going to like it. Homeless veteran ticketed for dumpster diving for food. So homeless Navy vet faces up to $500 fine for dumpster diving in Houston. This guy must not have gotten the memo. After serving the empire, Walmart is hiring vets. Veterans waiting more than a year for benefits have grown from 11,000 to 245,000 under Obama. Colorado theater shooter Holmes pleads not guilty, but the judge approves possible use of truth serum for him. For a first time, Russia puts dead whistleblower on trial. Thank you.